Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Happy New Year! For us recording right now, it's just January 2nd. You're hearing this the second week of January. This is our first TNA episode of 2025.
Woohoo!
It's crazy. Just so crazy how the time passes.
Flies.
Another year has gone. It's insane. We didn't even talk this year much about like New Year's at all. Like in December in our episodes, we talked a little bit about Christmas and stuff. You know, we had our episodes on gifting and ideas like that, but we didn't really touch on New Year's at all. And if you've been a listener, you've heard us like kind of talk about it before and know kind of where we stand on resolutions or goals and whatnot. And well, that's really just all over the place too. But I am curious, Amber, did you set any resolutions or like hard goals or anything?
Yes, I did. My theme, it's more of a theme.
Oh,
It's Fit for 40. So my goal is to, until I'm 40, work on those gains, baby.
I love
So
it.
yeah, just gaining muscle and toneness and trying to keep up with the kiddo, you know?
Absolutely. Just so you all know out there too, Amber has a few years till she's 40.
Yes,
So
yeah.
this isn't like
It's
a
a
6 month
lifestyle.
or not a
Yeah.
6 month
Thank
or
you
even 1
for
year thing.
Yeah, it's a long term. I just really want to be super fit going into 40s because at this point in our age is when we start to lose muscle mass and just start slowly deteriorating. So I'm going to try to counterbalance that by just gaining muscle and living a very fit life. I'm going to try and cut back on meat. Yeah, so it's just kind of like a overall long-term lifestyle change.
Why do you want to cut back on meat? Like a certain kind of meat specifically, like red meat or
Just all meat. I really like vegetarian and veganism. Like I just really like that lifestyle and I think it's really good for us to live that way. Additionally, I have this birthday book, and for my birthday day in particular, it said to eat more vegetables and less meat. So I'm going to listen to the birthday book because it was very, 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 very spot on. So there has to be some truth behind it. You know what I mean?
Very interesting. Very, very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So a couple things I want to touch on because mentioning, you got a few years till you're 40. I think that's important because
Yes.
again, it's not a short-term goal and a lot
Mm-mm.
of times with like New Year's resolutions, we do get wrapped up into this is what I want to accomplish in just this year.
Year.
And
Mm-hmm.
a year goes by really fast, obviously. Like we're
Yes, it
just,
does.
hard to believe right now that it's 2025. Um, so a year goes by really fast, and that's not to say that goals are not attainable in a year, because a year is also a long time to achieve some
Yes.
goals. But I think it can be harder for us to wrap our brain around setting longer term goals. I think a lot of times we do think a year goal is a long-term goal, but it's like, no, we can still set 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and things like that. It doesn't always have to be a year or less. A year is not necessarily a long-term goal. And like you said, it's a lifestyle change. That takes a lot of time to really like see and make the changes. So giving yourself those 3 years, 2.5, whatever, um, years to reach these goals and hopefully make the lifestyle changes that, yeah, when you're 40, this means it's not just going to change and revert back, right? This is what you're going to continue doing past 40 and
Yes.
into life and into your future. And yeah, like I said, it's hard to set those long-term goals because it feels so far away that you're like, oh God,
Mhm.
what am I doing? I'm never going to get there or something. And it's harder to see the changes, I think, in long-term goals or the like success, I guess, the progress. But that's why within your long-term goals, you can also set little goals. And so for you, I
Mhm.
don't know, that might be, yeah, just eating less meat or going to the gym like a couple times a week or, doing a certain workout class like once a month or something. Like, who knows? There's so many different ways. And I think it's interesting too, the eating less meat thing, because obviously there is a million and one things out there that say, do this or do that. Like, meat's not good for you. Vegetarian is the way to go. Veganism is the way to go. Whatever you believe, if you look up stuff specifically that support that, you're going to find it. So,
Mhm.
um, I am just going to say again, I'm not an expert or anything. And if you want to eat more vegetables and less meat, you just have to focus a lot more on your protein intake to actually make those muscle gains. So if you have a goal of gaining muscle, then you have to try extra hard to get your protein in, eating more vegetarian and vegan. It's just a fact. It's just a
Yes.
fucking natural fact. And it's not saying that one way is better than the other, but you have to try harder to get your protein eating a vegetarian diet. Thus, you have to try harder
Yes.
to make your muscle gains. So
Yes.
I'm just
Thank you for that reminder because like as you said earlier with like setting longer term goals, there's little details that you kind of forget on and
yeah.
that's very good point.
Well, and also you can change your goals and things, right? Like throughout them. You don't have to stick to them to a T. You can kind of arrange things to fit your lifestyle, or like, if this isn't working, you can change it. um so I would say, not that you're asking for my advice or anything, is like, go on with your goals of having more of a vegetarian diet and working out more, but notice like those what's happening in your body and your energy levels and
Mhm.
thing as you kind of start to eat less meat, or you're going to have to consciously like make sure you're getting that protein like right after your workouts or little things like that. Like, I'm going to have a protein shake after every workout. Like, that could really help you stay more on the vegetarian track, but also see some muscle gains, because again, as women
Yes.
too, it's much harder for us to gain muscle as well as we age because we're fighting losing it. So you're kind of in a place that I think that if you truly want to gain some muscle, you're going to have to put a lot more thought and effort into your protein intake, whether it's from vegetarian sources or not. So I don't want you to get derailed from your goals because you have kind of almost a little bit competing goals with eating more
Yes.
vegetarian but wanting to gain muscle.
Yes.
So again, like, just something simple like, okay, I my goal is to just up my protein intake without it being from meat sources.
Yes.
And that could be a
Yes.
little goal that helps you get to your bigger goal.
I love your brain so much. You're so right. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it helps. And
Oh, a
that,
million percent.
yeah, I I know that I just love meat. It's the first thing I go to for the protein intake after a workout or when I'm feeling kind of tired. Um, but like I said, it's possible there's plenty of like elite athletes out there who are vegetarian or vegan, but again, just takes a little more thought and effort, and that also can depend on how much capacity you have in your brain and life to put forth the effort. Um, but yeah, so I like your theme. I like that. And it's not just a 2025. Do you have any
Mhm.
specific 2025 goals or themes? Or I know a lot of people do
Yes.
words.
Ooh, yes. I feel like we've done a word before.
Yeah, I feel like
Um,
this, I don't think last year, maybe the year before, I don't have either of those right now, though.
I feel like if I remember correctly, my last year's goal was to like start a Roth IRA and do like some financial stability stabilizing things, which
Mhm.
I did. It wasn't in the form of a Roth IRA. It was in the form of like my new job and having like all these like benefits and things. So check in a different way. You know what I mean? Like we have these goals and we have these mindsets of like how we're going to get to them, but it doesn't always pan out that way.
Mhm.
This year for me is going to be traveling more.
Ooh, I love that. I love that so
Mm-hmm.
much. Oh, I'm changing my display here, so I just lost myself. Found myself. So you did start a Roth IRA last year.
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
sorry. Missed that. Okay.
I got
Yeah.
other forms of financial security in the form of a new job.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm just like totally fucking up my space here. So I'm all discombobulated. Yeah. Um, I I saw someone post their word and I really loved their word and it kind of resonated with me, but it doesn't feel like mine or anything. And so I was like, but it had me thinking like, do I want to think of a word for the year? But nothing's come to me yet. I don't have any kind of specific goals at the moment, other than just kind of keep chipping away at just life in general and trying to make shit up as I go and hopefully be
Mm-hmm.
successful with it and make my, you know, I'm on this freelancing journey. So yeah, being able to by the end of this year have I mean, hopefully before well before the end of this year, but have the kind of salary that I had before freelancing. That would be ideal, like just from freelancing too. So not having to work at the restaurant or something. Like if I can do that for extra cash, great. But I would like the main source of my income to be from freelancing. And yeah, that's just gonna take some organizing right now. I just feel so all over the place. And I think that's why I also can't think of like a word or specific goals because before we started recording, we talked a little bit about just the holidays and the craziness of it, where it was like, okay, in November, we were talking about our like gift guides and things like that. And it felt like December
Mm-hmm.
1st came around. It's like, okay, ready for the holidays, love Christmas lights and getting the spirit and being all cheery. And then it felt like December 2nd came and then it was December 31st. And so I just don't
Yes.
feel like I actually ever got to get in the headspace for the holidays. And now they're like over and I'm just like, whoa, just feel like I got ran over by a
Tailspin.
train. Yeah. And so I haven't had the time to even really think about anything at all. And I got this planner too by excuse me, this gal, Rachel Pohl, who is an artist and I just love her stuff. She's just bright, vibrant mountain landscapes and just I've followed her for years and she made a planner and I haven't had a written planner in a while. I think I went all of 2024 without one and so
Whoa.
I ordered one from her and in the beginning there's a lot of stuff in there about like kind of goal setting and it's much more than just a daily or weekly or monthly planner. There's prompts in there and stuff like that. And so I got that and I got it a week before the new year. But again, I haven't even had time to really like look at that or read it or set anything. And so I'm just waiting for that day that I feel like I can have to just kind of sit and actually let my brain kind of catch up because I've had a
Yes.
couple opportunities, but I've just sat there and I've literally been brain dead. Like I cannot think and
Focus.
totally been in the um like rot mode. Like when I have time off, I'm like Netflixing and chilling and not
Yes.
feeling bad about it because you can for a minute where you're like, okay, if I have time to like binge this show, I should be, yeah, reading my planner, writing in my journal, doing this, doing that. But it's like, I can't think. Like, I need to shut my brain off. And it's okay that we have times like that. And
Yes.
right now, for me, that's what I've been doing in my free time. I'm like, I just want to dissociate pretty much from
Yes.
everything. So I'm hoping after this week things kind of go back to a more routine kind of pace. With Christmas break, it doesn't affect me in the same way as like it does you, where like you have a kid who's actually out of school, and that can affect your daily work schedule or routine or anything. For me, with coaching, our practice schedule goes from 3 to 5 p.m. to 9 to 11 a.m. And then I also picked up shifts at the restaurant and brewery because we're practicing in the morning. So I could practice in the morning and then pick up these shifts and work either lunch or dinner shifts. And yeah, it's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like, holy crap, I am so ready for them to go back to school so that I can get back to my normal routine of go to the gym and then start work, or start work early and then, hit a noon class or whatever. I just have to get back on track. It feels like I've kind of hit pause for the last 2 weeks of life, and then it's the pressure's building up. If I have so much things to do that I've been putting off, that like, okay, Monday the 6th or whatever, I am ready for you. And then I'm
Yes.
hoping, oh, go ahead.
I also, in regards to your goal setting and like not being motivated and wanting to just like veg out and chill, a lot of people have been sharing this thing where it's like the actual new year doesn't start until the spring equinox. So if you are in hibernation mode, that is a-okay. You have a grace period, and the new year literally actually starts when spring comes, where there's rebirth, new growth, new light cycle. And I just, that really resonated with me and sat with me. But I've got a fire under my ass right now, and I'm trying to get fit for 40, big boy.
Yes, heck yes. Um,
So,
I have seen that post too, and I love it. And it is such a good reminder because this is something that we've also talked about, that, hey, so that's the thing that's always been weird is the new year starting in January, but like with our society growing up, everything, like school starts in September and it ends in June.
mm-hmm.
So it's my birthday's in July, your birthday's in August. So it's never felt like January's always been like the middle of a year. And so yeah, it's never felt like, okay, 2025, like gonna do it, or new year, whatever, gonna do all this new stuff and I'm a new person and all that, because like when I woke up on Wednesday, well, I still had shit to do from Tuesday, you know? Like it
Yep.
was, things roll over. Um and just depending on where you're at in life, some people can embrace it a little bit more than others, but it is a good reminder of like, hey, if you feel it and it's resonating with you that new year and you're ready to like charge new goals and things like that, then great. But if you're not quite there yet, that's okay too, because you have plenty of time. Like, when does it start for you? Is it your birthday? Is it something like spring? So a really good reminder too of like, yeah, I can finish this season out without stress, and I can pick a fucking word whenever I want.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, well, for me, I feel like my goal on my birthday was also get fit for 40. And I haven't quite followed up with that because I was like, oh, I'm searching for home gym equipment. I'm searching for home gym equipment. So currently, right now, I really, really, really have a good flame under my keister.
That's good. That's great. I remember feeling that way when I was like 29, of like, I'm going to get so fit when I'm for 30, and the 30s are going to be the best, decade of my life, and I'll be in the
Mm-hmm.
best shape ever and blah blah blah. And now it feels so crazy thinking forward about like 40s for us, right? Of like,
Mm-hmm.
and but I mean, we do get better with age. You get smarter, you can get stronger, and yes, as women, we do have things against us, like losing, like it's like 0.5% of your strength or bone density or something every year. So like
Yes.
3 to 5%, like a decade. Like, yeah, there's natural things against us, against all of us, men or women, as we age when it comes to keeping muscle on or gaining muscle or something. But also, like, if you look at endurance athletes, so many high, not high end, but like elite, like endurance athletes for women are in their 40s or older. Like, it is definitely not over, and you can 100% like hit your stride late then, like quote unquote later in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to keep that in mind because there's a time period, and I feel like it's in your 20s that it feels like, oh, your 30s and 40s are like, that's you're old, you feel old, like you should have kids or be settled. And so maybe it's not that you feel old, but maybe it feels like you won't have the same time for yourself as you did in your 20s, because if you do have kids, a job, a family, and stuff like that, then of course you can't spend, 2+ hours at the gym or running or biking or
Oh,
whatever, right? You just don't have that time that you used to. Um, and that could be true, but look at how many people have kids in their 20s and
yeah.
don't get to spend that time in their 20s doing it anyway. So they're not actually spending that time outside or for themselves until their later 30s or 40s. Like, that's a lot of people. So it really just doesn't matter. Something we've said a lot too, age is just a construct. Like, whether
Yeah.
you've gone the route of having kids in your 20s and now you're getting into your later 30s or 40s or beyond and getting back to having more time for yourself, or not having kids until later, like, there's we just always have to try and carve time out for ourselves no matter what stage of life we're in. It can be difficult to make sure we're prioritizing ourselves and our health and our wellness and things. So we have to keep that at top of mind at all
Yes.
ages.
For real.
But yeah, I just feel so kind of brain dead. So I apologize out there if I sound that way to everybody, but I've
You
just
don't.
definitely hit a wall of burnout, and it's something I obviously talk about a lot too and try to avoid. And I kind of know that, like, this is my theme. These are my cycles of like taking a lot on and hitting the wall and having to reset. And it feels like I never learn and I should just not take things on. But at the same time, I do think I'm better at noticing it earlier, where it's like, I'm not completely burnt out where I have been in the past of like, I don't want to do this and I'm shut off from everything. I'm burnt out to the point where I know I need a break and, just like a couple days off, because I've had 2 days off in the month of December.
Dude,
And those
that
were
ain't
just,
right.
like, one wasn't until the 22nd of December. So I went 3 weeks without a full day off, and then I had Christmas off. But it's like I haven't had, like, a couple just days off in a row in a very,
Wow.
very long time. And again, I'm not it's not like I'm working 12-hour days every day or anything like that, but every day there is something I am doing for a few hours that involves my brain having to work, and not just like
Yes.
relaxing or having fun and whatnot. So I just know I'm at that point of, man, I'm gonna have to really focus on trying to work some stuff in. But for the month of January, that's gonna be hard to do. I might be able to finagle a Monday off in a couple weeks so I can have a Sunday Monday combo. But
My
other
fingers are
than
crossed for you.
yeah, other than that, I know it's gonna be a push through January, and February is like, I'm like, I said it out loud, I think yesterday, just that, like, "Oh, it may not be till February till I get more than 2 days off in
Days
a
off.
row or something," if I can even get 2 days off in a row in January. But I was like, it put the thought in my head of like, "Okay, I need to plan probably something right now for February, like, 3rd week of February, just go home or try and plan something like snowmobile trip or something." But I gotta
Yes.
get something kind of, like, tentatively on the books for February, so I have something, 1, to look forward to, and to just, like, make sure I make it happen. Because if I don't, start to write it down or think about it, all of a sudden it will be February and it'll be, "Oh, shit," like, no time to do that or whatever, and it has to be put off again until March or something. But I'm I'm with you. I like your goal of traveling more. I think that's something I definitely need to do in the new year. And also, and not like crazy.
No.
Nothing, I'm not trying to go international. That would be awesome for sure. But even just quick weekend trips. Like I think one of my really good friends, one of my best friends here in Tahoe is moving to Santa Cruz. Um, so that's only 3-4 hours from here, and it's the beach, and I love it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to use this, like take advantage of it and see the positives of her leaving as a reason to go visit her more, get off this mountain and go to the beach and see her more. And even just for a day or something, it's just a almost a staycation. Like you're going
Yes.
just a couple hours away, but yeah, for a night, for 2 nights, something like that. For me to do that, I really have to fucking plan it, write it down, and otherwise, yeah, it just kind of passes me by, and that's what
Yeah.
happens a lot. So hopefully, with my planner, I can start writing things down like that again,
Yes.
and
Yes.
getting it out
Yes.
there.
Another thing that I wanted to focus and work on this year is being more specific with plans and details. So, for example, with this whole like Fit for 40, getting a little bit more specific in the finite details, because I feel like when you are more detailed in your thoughts and your plans, that's when you really make things come to life, because the more detailed you get, the more into it you get, the more it becomes reality, the more, you know what I mean, so on and so forth. So being more detailed.
Yeah, I love that, and that's what we've talked about too. Again, with I'll never like not be able to bring it up, but with Mallory, a viewer, and our manifestations, and like really asking the universe for kind of like getting very detailed, asking and exactly what you want. And I, I don't remember if I said this on the podcast or not, but in back in September when I was there in Washington, I wrote down kind of a more detailed affirmation than I've like had in the past, and I put it in my
Mm-hmm.
phone in my reminders to go off 3 times a day, 7 a.m., noon, and like 9 p.m. And it's just like a few sentences, very detailed. Well, like I said, more detailed than like I've done things in the past. So 3 times a day, this like reminder goes off, and so wherever I'm at, I can just see my phone and like read it and kind of put it away. Now, obviously, just reading a manifestation or something isn't going to make it happen. And I've just been thinking about it a lot over the last month, because one of the sentences in there was a goal that was specifically like by the end of 2024. And so I'm like counting down the days, like, okay, well, maybe I'll get that email, But
Yeah.
now, it's January 2nd, 2025, and that thing did not happen. But I also know that I really didn't put in all the work that I could have on the back end, because by the time I started to think about it, like, and really trying to put forth the effort and reach out, it was like the holidays. And just meaning that the holidays for people that you're reaching out to, um, is very hard because they're busy, they're stacked. Like between November and December, people's inboxes are so full. They don't really have the time to kind of discuss something new and start a new project or something like that. So, really, the timing wasn't that great to kind of start this outreach. So, that I know that was on me, that like I should have, when I wrote this down in September, should have started my outreach then. I waited till the last minute, and then I got to the point too where I was like, I'm actually not even gonna do my outreach now, because I don't want to just sit in someone's inbox for a month and have to, and there's a lot of different schools of thought on this too. Like, yeah, just send it, you're in their brains, and check back up in January, whatever. For me, I just wanted to kind of wait till it was all over and start in January. and now go down my list, because I just knew that too. Like, I wouldn't be following up appropriately, if I sent them at that time. So, yeah, it's like, well, wrote it down, said it 3 times a day, every day for the past 3, 4 months, but I know I didn't do the heavy lifting of it. You can't just wish and hope for things and that's it. And I mean, I knew that beforehand, but, um, it's just a little like a little test to myself of like, "All right, you knew it," and
Yep.
I gotta actually update my little affirmation thing here, but it's also like, it doesn't matter, like, I'm not sad that it didn't happen before the end of 2024 because I know that I didn't try my hardest to make it happen, and so I think when you know that, like, truly know you didn't do the work, it's a little easier to swallow that pill. Now, when you know
Hmm.
you put everything you had into something and it didn't work out, that can be fucking crushing. That can
Yes.
be so discouraging, and I've gone through those moments too of like, okay, well, I've still done so many things to try to get to this next step and it hasn't worked out, um but man, it's okay. I think that it's
Hmm.
okay to be discouraged and take a step back, and reevaluate things, but we also just really have to be completely honest with ourselves, and that's definitely what I'm doing of, like, I know that because I've spread myself thin, I didn't put everything in on this one kinda hope and dream I had for the end of 2024, but that doesn't mean I stop. Like, it
Yes.
rolls over. It's rolling right over to 2025,
Hmm.
except for it's not gonna be by the end of 2025, I da 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 da. It's like, okay, in the next fucking month, I'm gonna lock this up.
Yes.
So so yeah, it lights a little fire of like you're mentioning
Yes.
with your Fit by 40. It's like, okay, didn't get it done by the deadline I had in mind, so I can extend, but I'm not overextending.
Yes. And there's always room for evolving and adapting and changing. It's progress, not perfection, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and yeah, just with all that, I mean, I we'd love to hear from you all out there if you do have a word of the year or any goals or resolutions or anything like that that you want to share. I love to hear what other people have going on. I'm gonna
Same.
try and kind of think of a word. I think what I'll do is give myself all of January to kind of let myself hone in
Love
and
that.
kind of figure things out because I really do think I can have more clarity after like next week and I get back to a little bit of a
Dude,
routine.
yes. And you're not alone in that. Like,
Yeah.
holidays just throw everything off.
Yeah. And I mean, whether you're like stacked in work, I work in an industry that the holidays are the biggest time of the year. It's hard to take the time off.
Hmm.
So for me, it is like, okay, this wasn't my rest time. For a lot of people, holidays can be the rest time. But for a lot of people, it's not also just because they're taking care of kids or visiting family or hosting family or whatever. So it's it's interesting that we still kind of have this bigger stereotypical idea of like the holidays are a time for rest and family and fun. It's like,
Hmm.
no way, they're way more fucking stressful, I think, for a majority of people than restful.
100%.
Yeah, but
That is
so
way too true.
I'll take the first month of January to try to hone in, give myself some space, some grace, and figure out what the fuck I want for 2025. But beyond that is like action steps because I think we put a lot of weight on setting the goals, setting the resolutions, but not so much with like the little steps or big steps that we need to take to get there. So it's like, all right, write down the big picture and then what are all the bullet points? What do I need to do to get there besides
Yes.
a hope and a dream?
Detail.
Yeah, details. Yes, exactly.
Detail.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get back to my planner too and kind of finish the prompts of ending 2024 and kind of rethinking about the year as a whole and uh because really, like, there I guess not a lot of changes for me, but just a big change in that I went full-time over to freelancing. Um, so it hasn't been a full year since I've given myself the time or space to do it. So 2025 is the official, like, full year start of this new journey.
I love that. Also, in the meantime, while you're thinking of a word, maybe detail could be your word for now, while you narrow in a little bit more concrete details for the big picture.
Yes, I love that. Now that reminds me, I think the word I was talking about when I resonated a bit with this. I think it was Cassie of Wild Rye who said her word was deliberate. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, that feels a little similar. Like you're making deliberate choices. And I like detailed. I'm gonna have to actually literally write that down like right now because that could be it.
Yeah, details,
Details,
man. Because
details.
I just feel like for my whole life, I really haven't been much of a detailed person, and now I'm trying to like tune it in, like with even with like the slightest things with my outfits, like. I've been thinking about how I want more bolo ties in my life, or like little teeny little accessories on my beanie, or if I wear scarves or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like in the finest, in the smallest things, the
Yeah,
details.
yeah, I love it. Details are fun too,
God,
cause
they're
like they
so fun,
can
especially with clothing and
exactly.
accessorizing and makeup. Like it just, and it's very feminine, which I feel like I have not been extremely feminine in my whole life. So I'm also trying to tap into that. And in one way that I'm trying to do that is with makeup. Like
Oh,
I'm finally trying to embrace makeup. So I have a girlfriend who I really like how she does her makeup. So I was gonna hit her up and be like, teach me your ways. Where do you get your makeup? Who's your provider? How, like, what's your tips and tricks? Because I want to have fun and get down with that this year too.
I love it. I love it so much. Being a little more into that feminine side that we don't personally, you and I don't always like touch
Mm-hmm.
into. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like just our conversation with Scenic recently, the girls from Scenic, because their whole style, like first look aesthetically, I'm like, that doesn't scream Taryn. Um, eh, but then I'm like, but it does because it's not like I'm not a print gal. Like I don't like
Yeah.
florals and things like that, but I do like color. And like that's their
Mm-hmm.
thing is like they have bold color, not like a bunch of prints. And I'm like, I can definitely get down with that. So why do
Yes.
I need to I am putting my own self
Put
in a
yourself in a
box.
box.
Yeah.
Yes.
I put my
Yeah.
own stuff in the box. I'm like, that's not for me. Or even like just first look where you're like, oh, that looks way too girly. So of course it's not going to be technical. In the way that our own minds are trained to think that way because the industry has failed us so much, um, is a bummer that we have been trained to think that because something looks more feminine, that it's not like good enough, technical enough,
Functional.
strong enough, functional.
Yes.
Yeah, because everything that was made for us before wasn't.
Yes.
So I'm glad that there's people like them kind of changing that landscape, and there's just more conversations out there too of like, of, hey, we can be feminine and still do
Look
the
good.
like, yeah, or do the like quote unquote masculine thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I mean, people like Dovetail and all these other brands come into play, where it's like, hey, these pants can make your ass look good, but they're still completely functional to like work a trade in.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can just be all of it. That's the point with women.
Yes.
And again, I think
Breaking
anyone can.
breaking
What?
molds,
Yeah.
just like breaking the original thoughts. And I don't know if you do this ever where you're like, oh, there's only one way to get from A to B. And then
Oh
you
yeah.
talk to someone else and they're like, well, have you looked at it this way or thought of
Hmm.
it this way? And you're like, it just unlocks that
Yeah.
like thought pattern.
And that's
And
exactly the
it's
point
so
of this
great.
podcast and having all our conversations is to be able to do that for people, to be able to just kind of show or share the ways that people got to where they were, because
Yes.
it might resonate with this person way more than this person, or you may have followed a similar path and that's how they did it, and you're like, wow, oh, I never thought about doing that.
Hmm.
So that's what we hope to do with all of our conversations, especially sharing the stories of our guests, because again, it might unlock that in your brain of like, wow, they took this hard left after they went through this and that in life. Like, I can do that too. And then even with our TNA episodes here, it's just like, hey, you may be going through the same kind of shit in your brain. And one, it makes you feel like, okay, not alone, or one little nugget thing we say could make you think like, oh, yeah, that hit. I'm going to do that too. Or, hey, that's something like, I'm not going to maybe do the exact same like fit by 40 thing, but maybe that has inspired somebody to like, but I will make a long-term like 5-year plan, or I do want to do it in just 1 year, whatever. Maybe they only have 6 months to 40 and they're like, I'm gonna fucking do it. In 6 months, I am gonna like make these changes that I'm gonna keep. They're gonna become lifestyle changes after 40, but I'm giving myself just 6 months to really make some major changes. Um,
And you can do a lot with that time. Like
you can.
a lot of people think that it's that you need so much time or so much equipment or so much this or that, but things are very much so attainable with whatever you got.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it all depends on what your this is why I said mentioned earlier too, like, your goals can change, because you might set a goal for 6 months, and then all of a sudden 3 months in, you're like, "No fucking way am I gonna reach it." It's okay to extend that date, because you some of these things that you've never tried to do before, you may not realize how much time they do really take to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of people don't reach their goals, is because they set them and they did not have realistic expectations of what it would take to reach them. So
Yes.
they just quit instead of extending the kind of like, you know, deadline to reach them or whatever. With that being said, it can be the opposite too, where you're like, "Oh, I've been putting a lot of weight on this goal, thus not like really setting it, because I thought it was going to take a lot more time or effort to get to it. Now all of a sudden, it's 3 months into that 6-month goal and you've reached it." Like,
Mm-hmm.
so you can add to it. Like, okay, well now I'm going to do this instead. Like, either way, it goes, you
Progress.
can change it.
Yeah, progress, not perfection. Because I can't tell you how many times I have stopped progress because of trying to be perfect at it. And I'm just like, I can't do that to
Yeah.
myself anymore.
Yeah. I think
Progress.
all in all, for anyone out there, if you set New Year's goals yet, or resolutions, like, know that you can change them if something comes up. And if you haven't set them yet, because maybe you're thinking back on 2024 and thinking like, well, I didn't reach that goal, so I'm not motivated to set a new one. Like, again, give yourself the grace and space that it's okay. If you like, be realistic with yourself about why you didn't reach those goals. I think
Yeah.
that can be very important, because if you can do that and really look at why didn't I get there in 2024, then that can help you reevaluate what you want to set for 2025. Like, is it because
Mm-hmm.
you really didn't put forth the effort needed? Or did you put it all out there and it still didn't happen? Like, what what happened there? Really dissect why it didn't happen, so you can figure out maybe how you can realign goals and details for your 2025 goals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if you don't want to set a 2025 goal, then fucking don't.
Yep. Don't.
You can also take a break. You can take all of
Mm-hmm.
January, February till the spring. You can take however long you want, to set a goal. You can just like cruise through the year and whatever happens, happens. I think that's a great mindset for some people at certain parts of
Yes.
our life. Like, just fucking cruise. It is okay to be
Yeah.
on cruise control once in a while.
For real. Because there's like, I mean, we've had a few guests on where they're like, I've transitioned from doing the 9 to 5 and I'm doing this like freelance thing or this like traveling thing. And for me, I'm opposite of that. I did my life living and
Hmm.
stuff and things, and now I'm focusing on my career. So it's just meet yourself wherever you're at. Meet yourself wherever you're at.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, because I kind of did that opposite as well. I didn't kind of. I absolutely did it opposite as well. Um, but speaking of work, you're at work. I have to go to work. So I think we have to leave you with that, folks. And just know that we're all in crazy different spots of life and of 2025. And um, if you're struggling setting a goal, then maybe just don't even worry about it. If you've
Yep.
set a goal, then good fucking luck, my friends. I hope you reach it.
And keep us posted. Please
Yeah,
tell us.
definitely. Absolutely. All right, everybody out there, one more time, Happy New Year to you all. 2025, it is going to be a good one. It is. I might not have all the enthusiasm in my voice as I r- really, truly, deep down believe. It's just not coming out right now. I'm very monotone until I drink this coffee and get this week over with. But it's good things will happen. Big things are going to happen for all of us. I just know it. I just know it.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. All right, everybody out there, thanks so much for listening with us and ringing in 2025 for the TNA. And we will talk to you next week. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.